Okay, so this is day 3 on the pasuk 21:19, which we're going to see. We're not going to really spend the entire time on that. So no, we're not going to do a full review here. Just read the pasuk again. Tov sheves be'eretz midbar me'eshes midyanim v'cha'as. Better to dwell in a wasteland than with a, and this is the part where we have to have different translations. So we initially translated it than with a contentious and provocative wife. And our first idea was Isaac's approach and Ariel's approach, which was the notion of you might think that it's better to have an inferior support system than no support system at all, like to be in the midbar, but Kamash Malan, then she's going to not support you and she's going to ruin all your other support systems. Okay, so that was the first idea. That was what we did on Thursday. Then yesterday, we read the pasuk differently. We did Rabbeinu Yonah, who says, better to dwell in a wasteland than to dwell with a contentious wife if you are an angry, short-tempered person. Okay, so there we had we had Sean's approach to that, which is that if you are angry and you're alone, your anger can only do so much damage, right? So the story you're thinking, it might have some impact on the way that you act, but it's not going to like cause tremendous harm, and it's probably also going to go away much quicker. But if you pair an angry guy with a contentious wife, and for our purposes, do we say, Sean, that it's the same thing, right? So if you pair two an angry wife and an angry husband, the anger is going to they're going to feed off of each other. It's going to amplify it. It's going to make it more real because it's being validated by the other person. It's going to cause a lot more damage because both of them can work together to wreck things, and so it's going to be much, much worse.
Yeah. I think it's also just going to ingrain the idea more, right? Whatever they're angry at,
correct.
It's going to their association.
Much harder to let go, right? Yeah, or to view it as just a function of your own psyche when it's being reflected back at you and constantly.
Is it a premise 100% these people just will not work together, or is there like a Havamina to say of therapy or something?
Yeah, so there we did toy with several Havaminas, right? So there's certainly Mishlei Havaminas, right? There's a Mishlei Havamina that we noted that there are certain couples where they have fiery anger at each other, but the root of that is also the same source of their passion, which could be, expressed in genuine love. Like it could be like a real loving relationship, and then there's just this horrible like side effect, So that's a Mishlei Havamina, and maybe even a practical Havamina that you might think like, okay, it's worth it. Then there was David's approach that he was trying to take of that. Maybe there is a realistic Havamina that each of them will, so to speak, like keep each other on their toes, or like prompt each other to I forgot the language you expressed it in.
Just like being together and not like, well, we're together, we're going to have to work together.
Yeah, we're gonna have to work together. Like we're in it. Yeah. So unknown Mati. It could work. It might just be a foolish Havamina. It might be an actual Havamina. Okay, so that was the Rabbeinu Yonah. And then my approach to the Rabbeinu Yonah was that it wasn't really even about this case specifically. It was about, we know that if you have someone who has bad midos, then if you are thinking of pairing up with them, then you calculate, well, how is that going to impact me, or how's that going to impact my life? But what you don't typically, take into account is your own midos, and how your bad midos could combo with their bad midos and then make it much worse. So this is telling you that, yeah, it's bad if you're with a woman who's contentious, but if you are also a short-tempered person, that's going to make a combo that's going to be like much worse, and you need to take that into account. Okay, so that was Rabbeinu Yonah. Then we went on to the Malbim. Malbim wanted to differentiate between our pasuk and then pasuk 9. Pasuk 9 says, "Tov l'sheves apinas gag me'eshes midyanim u'beis chaver." Better to dwell on the corner of a roof. And Malbim wanted to say, with your wife, your contentious wife, than with your contentious wife in a house of friends. That's how you wanted to read it. Okay. There he explained, and I want to read this again because we're going to start off with Malbim. So there on 21:9, he said that this is talking about, Hagam shetov l'sheves beveis chaver. Even though it's good to dwell with friends, I mean, when you have like a social group in your house, im ovim v'chaverim with loved ones and friends and fellows, v'lo tov l'sheves galmud, and it's not good to dwell alone. But if you have a contentious wife, Lo tov l'sheves b'veis chaver. It's not good to dwell in the house of friends. Shehi tiskotet im hachaverim ashi yishafku lo lo'ivim. She's going to pick fights with your friends until she makes them into enemies. O tis or to ora midyanim b'neim, or she's going to start fights between them, right? She's going to sow dissent and what do you call it, like gossip and stuff between them. O tivazehu lefnehem, or she will degrade you in front of them, right? And that's going to create friction with you and them, or between you and her. V'az, and if that's the case, tov l'shavas al pinas gag, better to dwell in on the corner of a roof. Nifrad me'achaverim, separate from all social gatherings. Okay. Pasuk yotes, and then in our pasuk, Yomar ki tov l'shavas be'eretz midbar me'eshes midyanim v'cha'as. Our pasuk is saying a different case, which is imhu balkas, if he is an angry guy, or like as Malbim says, if she is someone who angers you, not just is contentious, but she angers you, az gan l'shavas al pinas gag be'ir lo tov, then it's not even good to dwell on the roof with her. But starkly, brach mi'paneha el hamidbar, you got to run away to the desert. Right. So do we have an idea for the Malbim, or do we just get as far as reading his
The Malbim, I
take?
think we left off by just reading.
Okay.
So we're gonna figure out.
Right. So let's see if we can get an idea out of that right now. And then the next step, last step, which we're going to segue into is actually I don't know which way we're going to go. The Malbim noted that the pasuk is repeated verbatim in chapter 25. So we could either go to that, so we could like complete the Malbim picture, or we could do a couple other interpretations on our pasuk. Oh, whatever.
Is it possible that he gives a different commentary of 25?
Yeah, maybe we should do that. Let's do that. Yeah.
One other thing is when you were recapping from yesterday,
Yeah.
Yona, and you were saying the idea how people don't think about their own things when they're seeing like how will my character traits work against somebody, will work bad with somebody else. And I was thinking like, oh yeah, I remember this idea. And then you were starting to say the idea. I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that.
Oh yeah.
It's something like we just don't think about. I was like, I know this type of thing is something to think about.
Yeah.
But I guess I just don't have that general, as we were saying, you just don't have that weight.
Right. That's part of why the going over. That's the hidden benefit of review. Like I think people think of review in terms of, let's say, like a Gemara shiur, where it's important to review to get your mind in the sugya. But with Mishlei, you're also trying to reprogram your default thoughts and emotions, and so going over it again can help.
It was
that.
good for that.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's look at. I didn't actually print source sheets for this because it's the same pasuk, but and I didn't want to print just for today. So let's look at 25:24. Okay. Now here it's the same pasuk. Tov Sheves Alpinas Gag Me'eshes Midyanim Ubeis Chaver. Now, just to note methodologically, chapter 25 until the end of Mishlei was not written by Shlomo, right? It was written by it's Solomonic proverbs. Right? It's like the ideas are from Shlomo, but they were written by the Anshe Chizkiyahu, which was much later, hundreds of years later. So the style is very different. Okay. Except for here where the style is the same because it's a verbatim repetition. And there are a couple instances where it repeats a pasuk from earlier. Okay, so the question is, why is it repeated? So it must be that there's at least two ways to learn it, because otherwise you would not need to repeat it. But what's the most common place you're going to look is you're going to look at the context, right? Ordinarily, we kind of ignore the context unless we're forced to acknowledge it. But when it's a verbatim repetition and the pasuk itself is the same, so then it's natural to look at the context. So the pasuk is the same. Let's just look at the surrounding context. And I know obviously we haven't learned these pesukim, but just to get our minds in it. Okay, so you have one of my favorite revenge pesukim. We were talking about revenge yesterday. Who was?
I remember this pasuk from like 6 years ago or whatever it was when you gave us over. I think on a Shabbat you gave it.
Oh yeah.
I still have not forgotten.
Yeah, so I mentioned to Chaim Zifkin yesterday about when he said, why don't you just like get over your anger? And I said, well, Mishlei doesn't just assume you can just change your character traits. And I gave revenge as an example and said that there are pesukim about how to take revenge. So here's the most famous one, I think. Im ra'ev sonacha hachilehu lechem. If your enemy is hungry, give him bread. Feed him bread. V'im tzameh, and if he's thirsty, hashkehu mayim. And if he's thirsty, then give him water to drink. Ki gechalim ata chose al rosho, because you're going to be pouring hot coals over his head. But Hashem yishalim lach, and Hashem will reward you, right? So what do you call it? So plain shot of that. I just got to like recap this really quickly because this is my favorite one. Mitzvah David says, where are we? 21. Mitzvah David says, hachilehu, feed him bread. The al titor losina, don't hold your hatred in. Okay, you got to outlet your hatred, but how do you do it? by feeding him, yitzar lo, you're going to afflict him, you're going to cause him pain, as if you're pouring hot coals onto his head. Because he's going to be very ashamed about the fact that you are repaying his evil with good. Even though this is considered revenge, God will reward you for doing tzedakah, right? So when it comes to reward and punishment in mitzvos, then like the mitzvah system only cares about your actions. And we say that there's such a thing as lo lishma. So here the guy's lo lishma is he wants to cause the guy pain, but he's actually doing an act of tzedakah by feeding him when he's hungry. So you get the best of both worlds. You get to do a mitzvah, you get reward from Hashem, and you get to cause pain to the guy who's your enemy. Okay, it's delicious. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's 21 and 22. Again, I don't know how far back the context goes. 23. Ruach tzafon techolel gashem ufanim nizamim lashon saser. I've never done this pasuk in my life. A north wind will techolel gashem. Techolel. What was it?
North wind means from the north, right?
I always forget that. I think it does mean from north.
Strong, I thought.
Yeah. I think so. That makes sense. Will east wind is a dry wind and a strong wind, I think, right? Here, you want this? Yeah. Okay. So chol will whirl or dance. I don't know what it means in our pasuk. Let's just see what the English here says. Bringeth forth rain. Okay, whatever. Will bring forth rain. Ufanim nizamim lashon saser, and secret language will bring forth angry face. An angry face. Okay. How does it say? And a backbiting tongue, an angry countenance. Okay, fine. So again, obviously we have to learn this inside, but it's talking about anger. Then we have our pasuk: better to dwell on the roof of a house with a contentious wife than to dwell with her in a beis chaver, in a house of friends. Then we have Maim Karim al Nefesh Ayefa Ushmu Tov Me'eres Merchak. Okay, I also like this pasuk. Like cold water on a weary soul, so is good news from a distant land. Okay. Yeah, like cold water on a weary soul, or an exhausted soul, so is good news from a distant land. Okay. I have my shot on that, but I don't know if this is from the meforshim because it's so long ago. My shot on this is, what's the difference between good news from a distant land and good news from a close land? So let's say you hear good news from a friend who you spend every day with, versus you hear good news like, oh, like such and such a friend is getting married, or like just had a baby, So they got a job promotion. So and then the other question is like, we all have had the experience of you are physically exhausted and you splash cold water on your face and like it refreshes you, but how exactly does that work? So the idea I had for this is that if you are in constant contact with somebody, so you see the good things that happen to them and they're happy about it, but you have it in the context of a nitty-gritty reality with all the particulars. So like, let's say oh, so-and-so is like having a baby, right? So if you are not in connection with them, you just hear the good news in isolation. But if you know that, and you know that they were trying to have a baby for a long time, and like there's pain and stuff like that, and like they're worried about the costs and like, all that stuff. So you're hearing it in a context that mitigates the pristine fantasy of it, So what you do, so what I hold this pasuk is about Mishlei's approach of engaging in fantasy. Okay, that Mishlei is against fantasy as a lifestyle or as an addiction. But the thing is if you can create a moment of fantasy just to refresh yourself with no strings attached, where there's no consequences and you don't get addicted to it, then that's fine. So like if you are weary from work and then you splash water on your face and it makes you forget your job. So if you were to like live a life where you're just denying the stresses of your job, that's going to be catastrophic. But if you're just temporarily like giving yourself a break from that, or let's say like you go for a jog and listen to music, or let's say like you play the drums or whatever, so you're having a temporary escape just to refresh yourself, that's totally fine, and it gives you this pleasure of being disconnected with all the stresses of life, from all the stresses of life, in like an immediate way that doesn't pose a threat. And then one more, just to see if there's context. Maya nirpas umakor mashkas tzadik mat lifnei rasha. A muddied spring and a polluted wellspring. So is a tzaddik who's forced to bow before a rasha. Okay. And I don't remember, that was the pasuk that I closed my second blog with when the parents did the witch hunt. That was a whole episode of my life. That I think the idea is that the Russia thinks that he's going. What was it? Everyone's missing something except for me. Maybe Isaac. I don't know if he was too young to remember. Do you need to do the phone thing now, or can you? You can go outside if you need to use it. So the idea is that the Russia oftentimes thinks he has the upper hand over the tzaddik, but it's like if you had a wellspring, right, that was like giving pure water, and you stir up the mud. So it's going to pollute the water for a little bit, but there's a constant source of pure water coming, and it'll eventually clear up. That's one approach. There's another approach that says that it's actually like a permanent bad thing, but this is the only one I remember. Yeah.
I would have thought like just basic shot that it's a spring, something that ideally is nice to look at, like someone praising God, for example.
Yeah.
It's corrupted and it's used in that way.
Yeah, I think there are people who take it that way also. Yeah. Okay. So that's the surrounding context. Okay. So can we figure out, before we look at the Malbim, can we figure out again? And when I say that this is the context, I don't know if the context is just the pasuk before, just the pasuk after. Is it this whole thing? How does that surrounding context maybe affect the way that we read this this pasuk? Our pasuk, I mean. I don't have an answer, by the way. I'm just
Yeah, I also ask methodology wise.
Yeah.
Particularly here, are you saying to look at the context because this is a verbatim repetition pasuk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It seems like in these other pesukim that there's some sort of relationship between good and evil.
Yes. I was thinking the same thing. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. No. I was thinking that I think that's why I read up through 26, because there's a pairing of the tzaddik with the Rasha interacting. Now, our pasuk is not necessarily a tzaddik, right? But it is pairing with someone who has bad qualities. And then, so that's one possibility. Another possibility I'm seeing here is there might be. Oh, and then sorry. Also in the were you thinking of the revenge thing also?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. With the revenge thing also, then there is a person who's doing an act of tzedakah to get back at a Rasha who's who's evil. Yeah, Mati?
Maybe it's saying the comma thing like applies everywhere else except for in a marriage.
Oh, that's interesting.
Not gonna brew anything good.
Okay, yeah. So I was thinking that this, I wasn't thinking in terms of the revenge, but this fits in. 23 talks about like something triggering anger, right? And 24 talks about an angry, contentious wife. And then 21, 22 with revenge is you are provoking someone, like you're making them like, feel these negative emotions.
I can hear what he's saying.
So you're suggesting that maybe that this strategy is not going to work on someone like this. It's also because you are doing a little bit of secrecy there. Also, I don't know how to translate lashon saser. Yeah.
No, just as a question, do you think like there's anything to the fact that they repeated this pasuk and that pasuk that we're working on now with the midbar, especially in that like if you look at the surrounding pesukim, some theme that I kind of noticed was like this overarching like there's some sort of natural or something in nature that they're talking about.
Right.
And this one is like kind of void of that. And then we go back to like the nature again, like the water and the spring and all that.
Yeah. I assume it means that Isaac can't
trying to talk
hear us.
before we couldn't.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Oh, wow. See, volume levels are not down. Before you talk, Isaac, I couldn't hear. I couldn't pay attention to what Klein was saying. Start again.
Yeah, I guess I was more like asking. Because like our project's talking like a desert or wasteland kind of like
Yeah.
natural phenomenon kind of thing. And the pesukim that are surrounding this pasuk here that they're repeating, like all kind of have these natural phenomena in as well, like from like a
Right.
plain basic level.
Right.
So do you think there's any like any merit, I guess, to the fact that they're quoting the one that has nothing to do with nature versus that one that they could have quoted and maybe come with a similar idea?
So I hear the approach you're taking. For me, it's easier to look for what they have in common to get an idea than to look for how this breaks the pattern and to get an idea from that. No, I'm not saying it won't work, but that's just my intuition here. Yeah, Isaac?
I can hear what the person before Chaim said, and I was just asking what they said.
The person before Chaim,
I think it was
Mati was saying that this is perhaps saying that the strategies listed in 21 through 23, or 21 and 22 at least, will not work with Nations Midyanim. And I was saying also that maybe 23 is part of that because you're whatever this lashon saser is, it's causing anger. You know.
Can you talk out what that mean? Like this?
No.
Like what,
I don't know. I don't know the idea. I mean, Mati, he was just suggesting as a way of connecting them that like this is a good strategy of revenge, but if you use this on your contentious wife, it's going to end in sadness.
Okay.
It's not a good long-term,
Marriage.
yeah,
Maybe it was like-
goal or strategy for marriage. Yeah,
Maybe it was like putting it here as like exclusive of this.
yeah,
Lashon saser to me at least seems like I know we're not looking at pasuk right
Yeah.
now, but it seems to me like when someone doesn't really say what they mean.
yes, yeah. That I think that might have been what this archaic translation of backbiting tongue. I've never heard of backbiting tongue before, but yeah, lashon saser, like passive aggressive or something like that. Yeah.
Especially when it like boils up.
Right. You know, that is funny. Okay. That actually, if that's true, then I can see this as a bad strategy that this husband might try to use is that like, maybe if I try to keep in my dissatisfaction from the fact that she is, provoking me, then that'll work out. And this is saying like, no, it's not going to work out because it's just going to come across as passive aggressive. And then she's going to sense your underlying hostility. All right, let's look at the Malbim on this and get his complete picture. So we at least get one thing. Okay, we don't need this. And we're not going to do it on all the pesukim unless he tells us to. Okay, Tov Sheves Alpinas Gag. Meishas Midam Beis Chaver. Kvar Amar Zelamala Uva Po Shenis. So it says this above, and here it is a second time. Oh, Aimash Prashti Lakaman Chavches Delef Torid Biom Sagrir. Meishas Midyanim. Oh no, Nishtavet Sofneha. Okay, so this is another repeated pasuk apparently, or closely repeated pasuk, 28. Wait, 28? It says Lakaman 28. Does it mean chapter 28?
Well, I guess.
Let's just check it out. So this is Isaac. Do you remember where the first pasuk like this was?
Could be chapter 20. Okay.
I'm gonna maybe. Let me just check out 28 first.
I think there was one. There was 21. I think it was 21:9.
21:9. Yeah, here's the easier way to do it. Delef Tored.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's the one with the nagging wife.
Yeah, that's the nagging wife, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so 1913 is Havus La'aviv Ben Ksil, the Delef Tored Midyane Isha. So a foolish son batters his father, and a dripping, an irksome drip, right? Is Midyane Isha, is the contentiousness of a woman. So it looks like this is a misquote. I got to send a correction to Al Torah. And then in 27:15, it says Delef Torah Biom Sagrir, a irksome dripping on a, what is this, a rainy day? Yeah, on a very rainy day, the Ashes Midyanim Nishtava, and contentious women are alike, right? So we would say it in modern parlance, a contentious wife is like Chinese water torture, right? That's the dripping, right? Yeah. I don't know if that's actually a real thing or if that's like racist. Okay, I don't know. All right. Anyway, so all right. Malbim, you keep on referring us to more pesukim. Okay, but whatever. I mean, it is a sugya, but let's see. Delef Torid Biom Sagriya ve'Eshes Midyanim Nishtava Sofneha Sofin Ruach. That was talking about the previous pasuk. Ruach Tzafon, maybe. Shemedame Eshes Midyanim El Tor Delef Torid. So it's comparing a contentious wife to an irksome drip. Geshem nolad alidei ruach tzafon. Okay, so apparently north wind for our purposes is wind that brings rain. Okay, who knew? Yeah. Okay, so rain comes from a north wind. Hayotze misgarto, that comes from its dwelling. I know misgaris in modern Hebrew is like a framework. V'im yirtza letzafon haruach. Litzpon haruach hatzafon hazeh. That's a pun. Oh, Malbim. If you want to tzafon like a tzafon afkomen, like if you want to store up the ruach tzafon, and that's where he winks. Hamolid geshem, that gives forth rain. Like let's say you basically want to store up north wind so you can like make rain whenever you want. Az tzafon ruach. Then the wind will be stored. I don't know what he's talking about. Shebchol zeh shemin. Shemin Yamino Nikra? What is he talking about? V'lachein b'mashakasav she'ruach tzafon techol al gashem, amar shekein ruach eshes midyanim hatzafon yolid midyanim. So just like the north wind produces rain, even more so, the spirit or wind of the contentious wife that is hidden will bring forth contentious. It does sound like a passive aggressive idea he's trying to do this idea of the stored up rain, or sorry, the stored up wind and the stored up ruach of the Ashes Midyanim. Like if she's holding it in, it's going to blow up. Yoli Midyanim, it's going to cause, what was that? A nor'easter, yeah. Yeah, that's our American equivalent, right? They don't get nor'easters in the Middle East, but yeah. Ad shetov lasheves al pinas gag, she'ein sham machzeh min hageshem. Okay, oh, that's why he's doing it. I totally forgot about this. What is he getting out of the sitting on the roof? Is on the roof, you're exposed to the rain.
Oh.
Okay, and the wind, the elements. Okay, so he says it's better to dwell on the roof where there's no shelter from the rain, hayored, that comes from above, than to sit in the dripping house with friends, as kol anshe habayis, with all the people in the house, where there's no shield in front of it. Okay, that was way too complicated for me. I don't know about anyone else.
I don't know what it's talking about.
I don't know what it's talking about either.
I got the point of like you're gonna store up the wind and then it's just gonna kind of blow up, I guess.
Yeah.
It made me think of like in Dubai where like they make rain for some reason.
They make rain and they also make rain. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
And like that kind of made sense in that like if you bottle things down and you try to like contain it, and then
Yeah.
it's like something that's a constant flow, then it's gonna just kind of blow up.
Yeah, that appeals to me, and it might appeal to me because of what I just said with the what I just said with pasuk chaf gimel, that lashon saucer is you're trying to basically talk nice, but you have anger boiling inside, and then pairing that with what Mati was saying, like it was like this: if someone wrongs you, your natural impulse is to take revenge. Okay, so here you're kind of in a catch-22. Okay, if you take revenge through the method in 21 and 22, right, of feeding your enemy bread, you're causing pain, you're inflicting pain. That's probably not going to go well in the marriage. Okay, if you take the approach in Chaf Gimel and hold it in, so that might work with an acquaintance who you only meet once in a while. Like you can just like put on a nice face and just like let it go. But with someone who you're with 24/7, it's going to blow up. Okay, and then what was that? So you need to let it out or deal with it in a different way. Like maybe dealing with it in a different way. But the problem though is if it is a contentious wife, so then I don't know how you're necessarily gonna I feel like if you try to bring that up, then it's just gonna make things worse, you know? So and then 25 does not seem to have to do with it, right? Of good news from a distant land. I mean, maybe that's when you've fled to the desert and you're just hearing like, oh, your wife is doing much better, you know. Yeah. Let's see if there is a Rabbeinu Yonah. And then maybe we could like no Rabbeinu Yonah. Okay, Rabbeinu Yonah kind of runs out at some point. Let's see the Metzudas David. Okay. And if this doesn't work, we'll go back to our pasuk. Alpinas Gag mibli machsev yachidi mibli covers anashim. Oh, this is exactly what he said in the previous puzzle. So he's not helping us to explain the connection. Let's look at the Me'iri actually. Let's see if the Me'iri helps us. Me'iri on 25. I know we didn't do the Me'iri on our pasuk. Me'iri on 25, 24. Me'iri Tov Shevas Alpinas Gag Kvar Bazeh Pasuk Lamala Kain Os Ba'os. So he doesn't even say word for word, letter for letter. The pasuk came above. Basham Be'arnu, and we explained it there. Oh, this is also going to harm us because do you remember how the Me'iri translated Beis Chaver? I don't know who was there. A house of sorcery.
Oh, right.
Yeah, right. So that was a completely different interpretation. Okay, fine. That's not helping us. Who else do we go to for help?
What?
Rabag, which we don't have here. I'm saving Rashi for last. Did you say Rashi?
Yeah.
I'm saving Rashi for last. You know, you want to guess what Rashi says about the? I almost gave it away. You know what Rashi says that this pasuk is about?
No, I don't. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll say it. What's one of you?
Anyone want to guess who didn't hear?
Yeah,
So-
No.
No. Oh man.
No. He says it's about the Shekhinah.
The Shekhinah.
Yeah, and I mentioned this. I quoted a pasuk in Yirmiyahu on our pasuk that says that God says, "I'd rather be in a desert than to be with my people," and that's the husband who is God in the mashal leaving the contentious wife. So Rashi says it's about chasing away the
Is it also
Shekhinah.
because he's an angry God?
No, I don't think he's learning it that way. Yeah. I mean,
I also
it would fit, right? Because the Ram says
Yeah,
that anger has to do with
yeah,
the Vodazara. But okay, let's look at the Ralbag, see if he helps us.
I also like just did shaving yesterday, so like
Ah.
a lot of anger there.
Yeah. Okay. Tov Sheves. Tov le'ish she'yeshiv b'lo chavura al pinas gag mi she'yeshiv im eshes midyanim she'tisor riv uktata lo tamid v'af pi shehu b'she'yesh lo chavra men rashim. That's exactly the same, I think, as his earlier interpretation. No one is helping us. Okay. All right. Anyone else? Let's look around. Yeah. See, he says Keneged Sila Kashchina Nemar. It's about the removal of the Shechina, and then Eshes Midyanim is Knesset Yisrael shiur LaKadosh Baruch Hu v'hiknito b'maasehem. This is talking about the congregation of Israel that was wicked to God and antagonized him with their actions. Yeah, Mati.
What is our issue at the moment?
Our issue is the same question as before, which is what do we get out of the repetition of this pasuk that we didn't already get from the pasuk before? And we're looking to meforshim here in hopes that they'll either give us a new idea instead of just saying we already explained it, or that they'll explain it in light of the previous, the surrounding pesukim. Yeah, Chaim?
I know this was probably covered in the Mishlei tier list, but I don't know if I can ask what, but Rashi's like method to Mishlei, is it less, I guess, pragmatic as others, and in that like he's going in like these ideas of like the Shekhinah and whatnot, and I mean, does he learn Mishlei in general is like less about like
So he
how
learned.
to implement this in your life?
Yeah, he learns Mishlei as Isha's Chayil is a mashal for Torah, and Isha Nachriya or the Isha Zara is a mashal for Avodah Zara and Minos and heresy.
Right.
And if you want to understand his whole approach, Rabbi Zimmer gave I think a 25 shiur series on all of Mishlei 1 through 9 according to Rashi. Okay, and I have not had a chance to listen to that, but that's on my list. And it's a completely different approach than we're taking. And I don't deny the existence of such an approach. This is the whole thing of like gold apples encased in silver, so is a mashal said in its way, its proper way. That the gold of Mishlei is applying it to the life of the soul, which is straight thinking and faulty thinking. And then we're learning Mishlei with a silver casing. Which is applying it to material success, not success of human success. And the reason why we're doing it is because you need to get your midos and your decisions in order before you can pursue perfection of the intellect, and you need to train your mind in the methods of Mishlei. Otherwise, you're just going to project onto the internal allegorical interpretations based on your imagination, which Rabbi Zimmer also gave a shiur on. Yeah.
Possible what the Chaf Hey Chaf Daled pasuk helps with us?
Not with Rashi, you're saying, just with us?
Not with
Yeah.
Rashi, yeah. In that, and given the context, that there maybe to help bolster the Havamina, that there would be, now that I have learned certain ways to deal with these problematic people, but then you think, okay, well now that I've learned this, I can now apply it to my situation here.
Right.
With this wife.
Okay.
And even then, this is telling you that the situation is still a greater bad than what you'd be able to.
Okay, that's good. That's good, right? So there are solutions that help with certain people, but they don't work on everyone, right? And to quote my my first influential teacher, Mrs. Scott, never try to teach a pig to sing. It wastes your time and annoys the pig, right? So you can teach certain people to sing, but you can't teach a pig to sing, right? So you have these strategies that can help resolve or avoid conflict, but if you try to apply them to the Ashes Midyanim, then it's not going to work out. Yeah, kind of in the same parsha as like Mati's approach as well, but it's a good way to say it. Let's just see if anyone. Oh, where am I? Let's just see if anyone else helps. Ibn Kaspi, wait, are we in the right parak? No, we're in our parak. I meant to be here. Ibn Kaspi, Shadal, nope. Malbim, nope. Malbim, nope. Targum, nope. Midrash, nope. Yalkut, nope. Ibn Kaspi, nope. Ibn Kaspi 2, nope. Moshe Ashich is long. We're not going to read it because we don't have patience. And by we, I mean I. So the stuff we did, Tommy Mikra, we don't, Laning's not going to help. Rabag, we already did. Okay, we don't know. Wait, no, we have more. We have the Rinach Mias in the Mikras Gedolos. Okay. He says, "Ksi kvar pirashi pasuk zeh b'chelik shlishi." V'kaflu hena, so it repeats it here. Lefishi hiskir the pasuk shalfanav lashon saser. Okay, because it mentioned in the previous pasuk hidden language. V'hu lashon hara kasher pirashin lamala. That means lashon hara, as I mentioned above. Lashon hara. I don't know what he explained for why it's lashon saser, but Rami Moskowitz always says that lashon hara is the most cowardly way of attacking someone, right? Because you're doing it usually behind their back, and you're doing it with you're only doing it when you think that they're not going to know it's you. Al kain samach kol orev lemino. Add that to your bird book. Therefore, it juxtaposed each raven to its species. I think he means that let's see, ki Ashes Midyanim Kamochen Balas Lashon Hara. Because an Ashes Midyanim is also going to be a Balas Lashon Hara. Al Kain Yishli Hisrachik Me Ohala. Therefore, you should distance yourself from her tent. So it's just bringing this pasuk here after a pasuk about Lashon Hara to remind you that if she's a contentious wife, she will come. It's a package deal. Not only are you going to get a contentious wife, you're going to get a Balas Lashon Hara also. And that's also going to make your life miserable in different ways. Yeah. So at least he gave us something, yeah. Right? Anyone else here? No. Okay. Oh, yes, Sadigon. Thank you. Let's bust out the Sadigon. It takes a long time to load when Zoom is on. We didn't even read Sadigon on our pasuk, did we?
Yeah.
All right, let's do that first. Actually, let's read Sadigon on all three pesukim. So 21:9. I bet he's going to say, he's either going to talk about Izevel or he's going to talk about Zeresh. That's my
164. If I remember.
164. Thank you.
If I remember correctly.
Well, we'll see. Yes, you're right. Good, but we're going to go back to 9. All right, so let's see. That's my guess. Okay, so he says, Milas. He also learned it was a charm. Milas chaver b'makom zeh min chover chaver. So it means the incantation or charm. Asher pirusha lochesh lachashim. Someone who casts spells. B'makom halachashim kan hatirdanos. And in I remember this idea. And in place of spell casting, then you're going to have like what do you call annoyances from or burdens. However you want to translate tirdanos. So just the way he's reading the pasuk, better to dwell on the roof of a house than with a contentious wife who casts spells.
What does it mean to cast spells? Is literally saying like cast spells?
Yeah, so he'll elaborate. I think if I remember correctly, he'll elaborate. If not, we will. V'kach kol shutaf hamatrid omazik v'alfa pisha tzorech maskik lo. Oh no, I'm remembering the Meiri. So what we said is that women back then really did not have recourse to many like influential things like for like power, like they weren't the income earners, like didn't have job, they were just like saddled in the house. So they made and this, I think this is an actual fact in the ancient world that women were more involved in sorcery and magic than men were. And we theorized that it was because of this fact, is that when you don't have actual practical ways to like exert an influence, you make recourse to fantasy ways, and what that does is it fuels this imagination-based sense of power that is going to lead to other problems. I think we said something along those lines. Let's just see if this helps us inside. And if you hold by real magic, then there's actual danger, but we weren't saying this with real magic. Anyone know what Sadigon's position is on magic?
I was gonna say just a little bit I know about Sadigon. It seems like he probably wouldn't hold with real magic.
I think he also doesn't hold of it because I know I know he doesn't hold with the Balas Ov, right? I think he's one of the ones who says it was all in Shaul's head, I think. Anyway, v'kach kol shutaf hamatrid o mazik v'afal pisha tzorech maskik chalo hariha preda mimenu tova yoser. So he says, he does not say this is about a wife specifically. He says, so to any partner, so this could be like a business partner or a roommate who is matrid, who annoys you or who harms you, the afal pisha tzorach maskik chalo, even though you you have a need that pairs you with that person, it's going to be better to separate. This is what as people say, proverb that they say, tova mishutaf bal midyanim. I don't know, people said that solitude and isolation are better than being paired with a contentious person. Okay, there's a Naval Ravikant quote who says, and I don't know if I hold by this, but he's a very, very successful investor who has a lot of good insight about life. So he says, if you wouldn't work with someone for what does he say? If you wouldn't be willing to work with someone for a year, don't work with them for one day. And I obviously, we've got to think about that, but I think that with this, it applies that you should really, if this person is just going to be provoking fights or nitpicking or nagging or whatever, any pairing is just not going to work out. Like you can't say, I'm just going to go in and get this little benefit, because in that interaction it could blow up. Okay, so now let's see how he applies this to our pasuk 164. You said 164, which does not involve sorcery. Kvar amar mikodim tov l'shavas apinas gag v'hagag hu gag shall bais b'yishuv. Okay, so a roof. So it says don't sit on a roof, or better to sit on a roof. A roof is in a place with civilization. The hifli kan, and it's exaggerating it here. Amar af l'shavas b'midbar tov yoser mishutaf ra. Here it's saying even to dwell in a place of non-civilization, in a wasteland, is better than being paired with someone who's bad. The efshar shelo hosif es hamidbar elam mipnei shehosif v'kaas. It's possible that it only increased the, added the midbar because it talked about, it added the fact of anger. V'hahar gaza, it's talking about provocation. Shihi kasha mina tardanas, which is worse than annoyance. Kach hamidbar yoser kasha mina yishuv, because it's just a quantitative difference, right? So if she's just annoying, better to dwell on the roof, but if she's annoying and provocative, better to dwell on the midbar. Okay, so that doesn't really help us. Let's just read the last one. I wouldn't say that we lost, but I was going to say you win some, you lose some, in the fact that you don't always get the answers that you want from Mishlei, and you got to just leave it in the unanswered Mishlei pesukim bin. Okay. We should make a physical bin and print out the pesukim that we haven't, what do you call resolved? Okay, what were we? 25, 24. Wow, that is a long pasuk, whatever that is. 25, 24. Almost there. Oh, he pairs it with the previous pasuk. Sorry, I thought it was like Chalila. Chalilas hageshem hu hashbasasa. So the Chalila of the geshem is its cessation. Upirashti lashon saser hadvarim harachim. And saser means soft speech. Okay, totally different than the way we were learning it. So he's saying the stopping of the rain. A north wind stops the rain, and soft language stops anger. That's how he's reading the pasuk. Okay. Upirashti lashon saser. Okay. Lefi shehem osim hadavar hanistar, because they effectuate things in secret, right? If you use a soft language, I guess it affects your. It's not the content of your speech that's affecting them. It is the tone of your speech. Uvmakom nizamim. That's what you were saying to me yesterday. Uvmakom nizamim zoafim vihi kardus apanim. Okay, I don't know. Oh, kidros apanim. I forgot what kidros apanim means. We don't have time. The joining of these two pesukim is opposites. Amar tchila. First it says ki ruach hatzafon kfi she'ata roeh osam mefazeres ha'ananim u'masal kasam mashbisa geshem. You'll see that the north wind will scatter clouds and remove and make the rain stop. Kach hasod v'hadvarim harachim mashkitim hacharon u'metivim hapanim hazoafos. So too, secrecy and soft language will quell anger and improve angry countenance. And just like a south wind will bring clouds there and will make rain fall, so too harsh words and contentiousness will make people angry, and make them worse. Don't be with a contentious wife, or with a contentious friend. Same theory here, not just a wife. Because being on a roof despite the narrowness of the place and the danger of falling and the suffering of the heat and the cold, that's better. Better than that friendship.
Right, yeah, I think he said the exact same thing with like the narrowness of the roof and the falling and all that, yeah.
Yeah.
I think he said like
He said, well, we just read it earlier, right?
the narrowness.
Yeah. Someone else said it, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
But he's saying it here. It's funny that he only says it here. He didn't say it in the first place.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know what we get out of this, and we've already gone over time, but okay, it was worthwhile to check it out. Do we get any new ideas? You guys can go if you need to go, but do we get any new ideas?
Not all methods work.
Oh, not all methods work for all people, right? That these methods might work for some people, but don't try it on Yeshus Binyanim. What else? I feel like we got a couple other
Why
ideas.
did you juxtapose it again? Sadigon?
Sadigon is just saying that this is the opposite, that that there are a certain kind of speech will work, and this type of speech provokes.
Yeah, no, I like actually like that. Yeah, because like, well, as far as like when things work, like I was thinking about when you try to like calm somebody down.
Yeah.
You never say like just calm down.
Yeah.
You could, but like it's not gonna work.
Right.
Usually what works is like just about talking it out and like being like calm yourself.
Right.
And then that kind of like affects like change.
Yeah, correct. Also, if you look at these strategies he's using, which fits into the idea that Mati just mentioned, like soft tone, the magic of a soft tone to quell anger is parallel to the magic of a nitpicky nagging tone.
Yeah.
To like, if someone says something totally normal, like in content, but says it in a nagging tone, it just puts you on edge. So if your wife or if your business partner or roommate has a nagging tone or like a provocative tone, it can just create this underlying bristle of get your fight or flight going. Yeah.
A different idea on what you were saying also, insofar as maybe a little bit of a particular of why this won't work in certain situations.
Yeah.
Is I think like speaking a soft tone will work in situations that aren't actually all that big of a bad.
Yeah.
But if like something like really, really bad happens to somebody, like the methods that will usually work and like the usual like day-to-day annoyances that somebody get angry about won't work there, and you don't have that way around.
Yeah. And chances are, if this is this type of relationship, something big is going to come up at some point.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
All right, thank you.
Have a good day. Yeah.
Women's power is all fantasy.
Thank you.